The Five Bloods by Spike Lee is a good movie. During the opening scene, we see four individuals, four black men, walk into a lobby. And they're hugging it out and they're just laughing. And just looking at the way they dress, you can see that each one of them is a different individual. And so I can feel their bond right away because of the powerful acting and the way directly is directing the scene and the way the set design is. It's just colorful, it's bright, camera is spinning around, it's great. Beautifully shot, beautifully acted, and an engaging story from the get-go. And so we learn who these guys are and we hear their dialogue, and Delroy Lindo, I think, shines the most here because there are moments in this movie where he'll have an outburst of his opinion about things. And he's like, black people need to wake up and all these things, or young men need to get together or something like that. But he's also a Trump supporter, which is, I don't know what you would call his character because I'm not in the political atmosphere like that. I don't know information about political stuff. Mostly. I know little things here and there, like Hillary Clinton and emails. But big, information, I have no idea. But, so they're painting his character a certain way, but Delroy Lindo plays it to perfection. Mwah. And everyone else is playing their characters to perfection. And then we have these flashback sequences where we see Chadwick Boseman, and I don't know why Chadwick Boseman is in this movie. Maybe they got Chadwick Boseman for star power. But he's in the flashback sequences, and the way Spike Lee directs it, fantastic filmmaking here. I probably wasn't alive during the Vietnam War, maybe, I don't know. But I do remember seeing documentaries showing the images of the Vietnam War, and the footage looked kind of grainy. It wasn't crystal clear. It looked rough. It felt rough. And you saw the horrifying, you learned the horrifying knowledge of what was really happening. I remember watching documentaries about that. And so when I watch Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, it feels, the footage looks exactly the same way as when that stuff was realistically, out there in the public. They were like, we're going to show you the realism of this war and what's happening here. And the footage looked grainy, and with Spike Lee's footage, it looked grainy as well. And so I like how it felt like he was going back in time. And it felt real, and then the music kicks in, and you see Chadwick Boseman, he's gunning down people, and you see the helicopter, and then you see the wide shots of the helicopter, and the mountains, and the grass. It's fucking awesome, dude. Feels like Predator almost, and he's fucking coming in, you hear the music, and it's just fucking trumpets or something. It's great. It wasn't, for me, it would have been awesome in the theater, because for me watching it on my television, it just didn't feel loud enough. I was like, it should be fucking like booming, But I could hear it, and then helicopter comes in, Chadwick Boseman has his hero pose, and this music is just kicking in, and I'm like, all right. And then they find the gold, and then, Chadwick Boseman, Stormer Norman is like, okay, yeah, we're going to give this back to our people. So I guess they hide the money. They don't show that they're hiding the money in the movie, but you get an understanding of it through their conversations and through the scene with the gold and all that. And then you fast forward to the present time, it jumps back and forth, which it doesn't feel jarring or anything. It feels cohesive. I understand what's happening. I just wish he would have casted younger actors during those Vietnam scenes in the past. Like, you could have had a young Nick Cannon play the supposed rich guy. There's this dude, I don't remember his name or the character's name, but the character was broke. And by the end, his friends were confronting him like, hey, you're rich, you're well off, because he was like, money's the root of all evil and all this stuff. And then he got blown up by a landmine, which we'll get to later. Gruesome as hell. Felt real. But like, that guy, Nick Cannon, could have played a young version of that character, just have him grow a little afro. Nick Cannon could have played that character, and they should have casted younger actors. And don't spoon feed to the audience. Oh, here's my character name. Here's my character name when they greet each other. Just have the audience trying to figure out, oh, that's this character and this is that character. Should have casted younger actors. It's a nitpick, but it just took me out of the movie. Maybe Spike Lee did it because it's like, oh, I want you to get familiar with these actors. But it just, I think in the movie at the end, they show you this picture of the Five Bloods, and the older actors are wearing makeup, I think, to disguise the fact that they're older. And it just looks bad. It just takes me out of the movie, man. And then, he should have just casted younger actors. It's a small thing. I still felt the story emotionally, but he should have just casted younger actors. But what else happened? Okay, so then you jump back and forth, and I'm feeling it. I understand the characters and their differences and who they are. The most interesting part of the movie is when the older guys finally find the gold, but it's been there for such a long time. And then the gold is scattered all over the place. And when they find it, when the guy who usually says in every Spike Lee movie, he says, "Shit," I love that guy. He does that in every Spike Lee movie he's in. And from what I heard, it's like his father used to say, "Shit." His father used to say that, and then he does that. And then now Spike Lee loved that story that he told him. So he's like, do it in every movie. It's great. He did it in Chirac. He did it in He Got Games. Shit. I love that shit. Awesome every time I hear it. But I love when they're on the mountain, they find the gold. Spike Lee's beautiful directing. You see the mountains and everything. It's great. But he's finding the gold with the metal detector, and he's like, oh, I got a hit here. I got a hit over here. And they're just fucking like happy, like, oh, we found the gold. But my question is like, okay, Storm and Norman said that we're going to give this back to our people. We're going to give this back to our community. But now it's so many years later. What are they actually going to do with this money? And so Delroy Lindo and other characters have different opinions about what they're going to do with their share. And I think the guy who usually says, shit, that guy, he's like, man, we're supposed to give this back to our people, man. We're supposed to do what Storm and Norman said. And Delroy Lindo's like, fuck that, I'm out for myself. Delroy Lindo's a two-faced character because then his son, played by Jonathan Majors in here, who gives every actor in here gives a good performance, but his son, Jonathan Majors, his character's name I don't know, but he's like I don't know why he's even there. It's kind of, it's explained, but I don't care. He's just there. But I love the dynamic between Delroy Lindo and Jonathan Major, their characters, and how the father is like really brutal emotionally to his son. Like he's kind of two-faced but then Jonathan Majors betrayed his father where he hit him over the back of the head, but then Delroy Lindo's character was like emotionally abusing him. So I love that dynamic. And even at the end of the movie, Delroy Lindo's like, hey, I'm sorry, I got PTSD, here's what happened in my life, I'm sorry for what I did. And it's funny that he did it in a letter, and it made sense for his character because like there's the scene, my favorite scene in the movie is when Delroy Lindo, they're on the boat, I think, and they're ready to go to search for the gold. They're on their little boat getting ready to go to the island, and Delroy Lindo confesses to the guy with the mustache. He's like, man, I got demons, man, blah blah blah. And then it's like he starts freaking out. Delroy Lindo's character starts freaking out on the guy he's confessing to. And I'm like, you're confessing to him, but you're like, man, I ain't no punk, man. I'm like, but dude, you're clearly crying out, asking for help. But then he's a man. He can't confess my emotions. Is great. And then he's sitting down, minding his own business, and this dude shows up, and he's like, buy fish. It's funny as hell. He's like, buy fish. So there's comedic stuff in here. He's like, buy fish. And Dorian like, he's begging with the guy. He's got his hands in prayer pose where he's like, please leave me alone. And then and then buy fish, and then he's like, dude, get the fuck away from me. It's a funny scene. I think it's a hilarious scene. And Delroy Lindo plays it to perfection, and the guy who's like, buy fish, he's great. It's a great, and Spike Lee, it's all fantastic. He's like, get the fuck away from me. And I feel like Delroy Lindo. I feel like the guy who's like buy fish is in the wrong, because Delroy Lindo was polite at first. He's like, "Leave me alone, dude. Stop talking to me. I don't want your fish." And the dude kept pushing. I understand he probably needs money or whatever, but it's like fucked up. You should have left him alone because he asked you nicely. But then I thought, what would I do in that position if I really didn't want this person to bother me and I'm being polite? And then you just walk away. He could have got up and walked to the other side of the boat, kept his mouth shut, whatever. That's what I think he should have done. That's what I would have done. But it's a hilarious scene because of the way it's executed, and it's, and Delroy Lindo plays it to perfection. Everything's executed perfectly, directing, acting, everything. And then they find the gold. Then they have a confrontation with each other about what each individual person is going to do with it. And then Delroy Lindo, his son Jonathan Major, does the twist. Oh, hit him over the back of the head. And then Delroy Lindo's like, "You're not my son," and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a scene where there are these people who they met in a bar earlier, and there's this girl, and then they meet up later. I kind of don't care, but they meet up later, and it's kind of weird. Jonathan Majors on a landmine. He's standing on top of a landmine, and then there's this. It's intense though, because you're like, fuck. Because someone just got blown up. I don't remember who, but then there's this whole subplot where there's John Reno's in this movie. The great John Reno from the fucking Professional. He's in this movie, and he's like some guy who's like, yeah, I can make your money clean or some shit. And then he wants his cut, and then they're like, all right, and then they're all worried about who gets what cut. But John Reno's fucking plot about, oh yeah, there's this fucking dude who's like, you stole this money from my ancestors, not your money and stuff. So he comes in and he's killing people. Someone gets blown up. I don't remember who, but then Jonathan Majors is standing on top of a landmine, and it's an intense sequence where Delroy Lindo's character and all the other characters and the characters who just showed up, they take a rope, and there's this whole strategy about he wrapped the rope around them, and then he's like, "Son, you're gonna jump," and then he's like, they're counting down, and they pull, and then he doesn't get blown up. It's fucking intense. After seeing someone get blown up, it looked realistic. But then later on in the movie, there's an ambush with this fucking dude who's like, "You stole this money from my country," and blah, blah, blah. And so then he's holding a gun at them, and then there's a shootout, and then what the fuck? There's so much shit happening in this movie. I think it was kind of bloated, but it's fucking like, the dude, the friends think, "Oh yeah, you're rich, you have money," and he's like, "I'm broke, man," blah blah blah, and he's like, "Man, money is the root of all evil," and all this stuff. Once they have this confrontation, he's backing away, and then he steps on a landmine, and then he blows the fuck up, and it's fucking realistic as shit, where his legs are like missing, his guts are hanging out, and I'm like, God damn. It was fucking horrifying. I was like, shit, but it felt a little bloated, and like, just so much happening in this movie. Why did this have to happen? But I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, like, man, they're in the fucking Vietnam, and there's nothing going on now, but there's fucking tensions of people having, past trauma. That's why the guys coming in, he's like, "You stole this money from my ancestors," and the Five Bloods are coming back, and they're like, "Oh, in a Storm of Norman, we need to find his body." They find his body, and then they honor their fallen comrade, and they get the gold. Everyone has a connection to some past event that changed the course of their lives forever. That was deep, and so it made sense, but it just felt a little just bloated and kind of silly sometimes. But I understood it, and so then dude blows up. He's dead. It's horrifying. And then Delroy Lindo's like, "Fuck all y'all," and he walks off, and he screams at the top of his lungs. And then he has this moment intense where he's going crazy. So I understood it, but he's looking into the camera with his eyes, and he's talking shit about how he's gonna survive and nothing can stop him. And I understood it. Most of the time, I don't like moments like that in movies where a character is like talking to the audience and he's looking in the camera. Let's just execute it properly, like Forrest Gump. Makes sense because he's on the bench the whole time talking to people. He's not really talking to us. He's talking to people on the bench. So that narration, voiceover makes sense, talking to the audience. But in this, it made sense because he's going fucking crazy, and the way it's shot, why he's looking into the camera at the audience, looking into his soul. eyes are keys to the soul. It's how I represent it, and it makes more sense. And he's going fucking crazy. And the way it's shot makes it more engaging and exciting. And the performance, Delroy Lindo, makes it intense. So I'm into it. And I'm like, I don't know. At the beginning, when Delroy Lindo was walking away screaming, and we just saw this one shot of just his back, and he's walking away in the distance, and the other guys are looking at him like in a disappointed manner, I felt like we should have just made it ambiguous for his fate. We don't know what happened to him. He just ran off in the woods screaming at the top of his lungs. We don't know what happened. I would have went with, I thought the movie was going to end with his character on that note. Like, we don't know if he lived or if he died. It's a mystery. But then once we get the reveal, it's satisfying because then he gets confronted by, well, first he gets attacked by a snake. And he's like so survivalist where he starts sucking the poison out. But then he gets confronted by the guys like, you stole this money from my country. And then they hold guns at him. He's digging his own grave. And it's like, yep, he's going to fucking die. I was hoping that the Five Bloods, his brothers, would get him out of it somehow. Because I was like, he's a terrible person. But it's his PTSD, man. It's his past. And it's like that affected him and it shaped his character for the future. I mean, he even knew, but he didn't really know how to deal with it, I guess. But he's digging his own grave and then he sings and then they shoot the shit out of him. And I'm like, damn, all right. I would have liked the ambiguous route, but him getting shot was intense as well. And the movie goes along, and then dude's like, you stole this money from my country, confronts the rest of the Bloods, and then one dude who has a wife, or not a wife, but back during Vietnam, he was sleeping with this woman, and he got her pregnant, and now in the future, the girl is like, I want to know who my father is. And the mother's like, I'm your mother. That's all you need to know. And then I guess she was sending out these messages to the Five Bloods during the Vietnam War. Like there are these sequences in the movie where it feels like Quentin Tarantino. This chick is looking into the camera and she's talking to the audience because she's looking at the camera. But then she's also sending out a message to the Five Bloods like, brothers, you're gonna make it and all this stuff. And the way it's shot, it feels like, you know, like kind of like Robert Rodriguez's Sin City mixed with, you know, some Quentin Tarantino flavor. You know, the way it's shot, how she looks into the camera, and then it feels like, you know, it feels retro, and the way it's shot and the way she acts and the way it's executed, it's fantastic, and I feel it. And so she's like, I want to know who my father is, and she's sending out these messages because I think she knows. But then at the end, when he comes back from the trip of this chaos taking place, he meets his daughter, she meets him, they know who one another is. And yeah, so he has that story. So each character has a story in here, and then the guy who's like, shit, that guy, he makes a sacrifice play. At the end shootout, there's a grenade that gets thrown. He's like, grenade, and he hops on top of it. I kind of thought that was a lame death for him. I thought there could have been something better, but he made a sacrifice play, so I guess, I don't know. I thought there could have been a better ending for him. And then, so dude gets blown up. Dude lands on the grenade. Delroy Lindo gets shot to shit. And so Stormy Norman's dead. There's only one blood left, I guess. Yeah, the guy who has the daughter. But yeah, it's a good movie. Lots of good moments in it. Great directing, great acting, set design, color grading, storytelling was engaging. Just little nitpicks here and there that I felt like could have been tweaked to make the experience enhanced and more engaging. That's all I have to say.
Come on, man. You're not my cousin anymore.
No, I'm not your cousin no more.
Don't
that
ever
bunch
touch
of
me
pussy
again.
school
Don't ever
faggots is
touch
your
me.
family
That's
now.
right. I'm a ghetto man. I'm a ghetto man.
I'm calling your mother.
It takes a real man to be a ghetto man, because only a ghetto man's a real man.
Fucking asshole to do what you did, man.
Get him!
Get the fuck out of here.